6. And in this case, we're going to be using Excel to do some work in terms of looking at and understanding the concept of break-even analysis and doing that. So, I'm sure, yeah, well, yeah, I see a couple people there now. All right, now, before we do the case and look at it, just some housekeeping in terms of what we've got going on today, this week. And we're in week 2, because I start at 0 and count from there, not 1. And we have a couple of things. First of all, XLS3, which is Guardian Roofing Payroll. You should have uploaded it already. And then you have a chapter from the Stephen Few textbook. That's the big textbook. Show me the numbers. And that's it. Now, I have some resources for you that I hope you'll take a look at. And 2 of these deal with the accounting ratios. And then these others, these deal with stock market comparisons, company comparisons that provide you, let you see some charts of comparing firms in terms of their performance in the stock market. And you know, Bloomberg, Yahoo, those are 2 good places. Motley Fool is another to look at that data. And that's kind of a follow-up on what we did last week when we looked at that case, Dabney Financial, where we compared the 2 companies on the basis of their financial ratios. Well, I want to make sure that we don't lose anything, so I want to go into the I'm going to go up here in the welcome section, and if I'm not mistaken, I probably have some links to some information about the break-even analysis. And if not, I know for sure I've got some over there in fact, I even have a solution file there on it. And the text does a little bit of speaking about how we use break-even analysis and what the point of it is. And I'm pretty sure you're going to find over in the supplemental website for the course some information about break-even analysis. And let's see what we got there. Okay, I'll go over there. That's that extra the supplemental website. That's an old repository, and I think you'll find some things on break-even analysis. Or I believe I have some here. There's a break-even calculator. I've got one of those there for you, and so some nice tools, and you can obviously go out and learn. You'll get a dose of it, a serious dose of it, when you take your econ courses, if you have not already. Let's go back down to the modules, and I'll close this up. And we're going to talk about this company, Badger Jams. Now, that we'll go into the files, excuse me, and we want to look for XLS6, or we want to look for Badger Jams. That's the let's see if we can find it there. It helps to spell it correctly. There we go. And I've got a couple of keys there. And as I said before, I often just kind of work through these, and I'll embellish them a little bit or change something as I work through it. And this is one I did last year. You can see both of them. Now, let's go in and take a look at the skeleton file for this, and that's going to be in the Solvit files. Okay, and they have the student files and the solution files, and we'll look at each one of them here for just a moment. And that's the Solvit 6.0 solution student files. I'm gonna look at that zip and download it. And there you'll find the Badger Jams, and I'm gonna open it up. Yeah, you can open it up, okay? All right, and you'll want to go ahead and then save it to your desktop, so you can get to it easily. And then also, once it's there, I would go ahead and close it. I'd save it to the desktop. Okay. Then I'd close it up and close the zip file. And then we'll go down here and you should have it on your device. Okay. There's Badger Jams. And you can rename it with your last name or whatever you call it, case 6, whatever you want to do. But it's always important, and I go through this, I know some of you get tired of hearing it, but if you don't put it in your native environment and save it and then reopen it, you can create a system file that'll be impossible for me to open once you've saved it. You may not even be able to upload it. So let's go ahead and open this up. This is Badger Jams, and this is case number 6. It starts over on page 57 in the Solve It textbook, okay? And they give us some information about the company. They have this person, Lindstrom, who started the company, and they have jams and spreads. They sell jams and spreads, and they're packaged in jelly jars with hand-drawn labels. And so they call themselves Badger Jams. And that's over on page 57. At the bottom of 57, they talk about break-even analysis, okay? The way to compute what they call break-even point, and that is the number of units you need to sell to break even. Break-even analysis is important for us because we want to make sure, okay, that our plans, if we start a business, make any sense. Or if we say expand a business, does it make any sense? Or if we buy a piece of equipment, all right? Break-even analysis is most directly applied to a company selling a product, and so we want to know how much of this do we have to sell to break even. And it also brings us, it also will get us into some information about the costs and variable costs, marginal costs, etc. So we have the skeleton file here, okay? And so we have the title and then a little area where they identifies it. And then we have the authors have set up a little bit of a assumptions area, and we have to put some data in here. Now on fixed, we have the sale price. That's what we sell each case or jar for, case I think, and then we have the fixed costs, and these are rent, advertising, commercial stove, and cooking equipment. That's where they come from. Okay. So what I want to do is go ahead and I'm going to use the sum function, the auto sum, and then I'm going to bold it up, not the whole thing, just this. So we have $25,700 in sunk costs or fixed costs. And we call them sunk costs because this is money we have to spend or costs that we got to observe before we sell one unit, okay? It's the other term you'll hear is a sunk cost. This is what that entrepreneur has to put up in order just to open the place up and be ready to make their jams. They haven't sold them. Variable costs are different. Variable costs, and let's go ahead and make that bold there. That's on A18. So it looks, variable costs are the costs that change according to the level of business. In other words, how much of the stuff we sell. It only makes sense that if I don't sell any jam, then I really don't have any shipping charges, and I certainly don't have any preparation or packaging charges. Okay, so we want to know what that's all about. Let's go back up for a minute to, well, let's go ahead and use the auto sum for that 21 through 20 through B20 through B21, do the auto sum. And I want to know what my total variable costs are, okay? Now, there's a thing called the contribution margin, okay? And that is something that's the contribution margin, and they talk about that there in the chapter, okay? And the contribution margin, they talk about in the very first package, contribution per unit is the difference between the selling price per unit and the variable cost per unit. Okay, so we're going to put, I'm over here in D8. I'm going to put contribution margin. Okay, and I'll make sure I spell that correctly. That'd help. I'm going to go ahead and squinch that out a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and bold it. Okay. And contribution margin is going to equal the selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit. And that gives us the money, the amount of money we have to pay towards fixed costs. And they said, well, where in the world did you get that? Well, it's over there on page 58, okay? And they talk about the contribution margin. This middle paragraph of 58 is the difference between the selling price per unit and the variable costs per unit. So here in cell E8, I'm going to equal B8 minus B22. And I have a contribution margin of $22.40. That's how much I have per unit to pay towards the fixed costs. Remember, variable costs are costs that change in terms of the number of units that we sell. Okay? Fixed costs we've absorbed. So we want to know, when I sell an item, how much am I generating in contribution margin to carry the cost, to take care of the costs that I have to pay, and those are the fixed costs. Okay. Now let's look in here for a moment. Let's see if I'd done anything. Let's look at the name manager and see if we'd used it, and we had not. But if we wanted to, we could go ahead and use the name manager to define some of these things. It might make it a little easier for us. Let's just do that. We'll define a name. And that's going to be sale price. Okay. And I'll do it again in case you're, I'm going to click here on formulas. Then I'm going to click define name. And I'm going to go over here to cell B8, and I'm going to call it sale price. Okay. Now, if I go into the name manager, I'm going to see it there. And it's going to say the name of that variable is sale price. The value is $39.95, and it refers to B8. Okay. Now, since I've done that, I might as well go ahead and get the variable cost per unit. Okay. So I'm going to click close on that. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to define the name. So click in cell B22. And I'm going to call that variable cost underscore cost. And that's going to refer to B22. I'll click OK. And then I'll go into the name manager. Let's see if it's there. Okay. Now I'm ready to use it in this equation for the contribution margin. So I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to come up here to cell E8. Okay. And you know, because I'm recording it, don't get too panicky, because you can always go back and see it. And I have a couple, I think I've published 1 or 2 keys over there anyway, so you could see it. So I'm going to click on data. Okay. Pardon me, formulas. Then I'm going to click using a formula. And I'm going to put sale price, and that's going to be minus, okay, the variable cost. That way I can understand the variables as opposed to having to look for a cell reference. Follow me? We've been doing the name manager over and over. Now, let me stop for just a moment. The understanding marginal cost is important. And you're going to hear, if you haven't had econ yet, you're going to hear a lot about marginal utility, marginal revenue, marginal cost. That means incremental or additional. How much money do I make for each unit I sell? How much good or worth do I get out of one more of a certain thing? Okay? And it applies to everything. All right? And we have to take a look at that, because there is a point where if our contribution margin is not large enough, then we can put ourselves into a real bind. We can literally sell ourselves out of business. Okay? And this company, Badger Jams, is trying to determine, okay, is this realistic? So they've got their sale price per unit, they think that what they're going to sell it for, fixed costs, then they've got their variable costs, and then we'll have a pro forma down here in the bottom, this also known as the input and calculation area. We call it a pro forma, which means a form for the sake of. It's a tool that we use to take a look at. You'll notice I've got the number of sales and half of break even, twice break even. And instead of that, come down to cell B27, and let's put this in. 0 sales. Okay? So in B27, write the word 0 sales. We can't be sure. We may not sell any of this stuff, and we have to plan for that. Now, there's one other piece to this that we want to add before we start doing some computations, and that is we want to look at the economic investment in this, and we're going to do that. So go over to cell D10 and put in economic investment. And you could even just put economic cost. We'll use that shortcut, and we'll bold it. Okay. You say, okay, what are you going to put in there? We're going to put in what the entrepreneur is investing themselves. If you look at the top of page 58, you're going to see that Lindstrom, that's our protagonist here, is going to pay himself. I don't know if it's a lady or a gentleman, but the entrepreneur is going to take $64,000 of their retirement money to live on till the business is up and running. So in that economic cost there, we're going to put $64,000. Okay. And you say, are you going to put it in the name manager? Yep, might as well. So I'm going to click define name. And it's the economic cost. There it is. It's cell E10. Now we need to look at this, and I've added this, although the authors didn't talk about it. The authors mention it, but they don't really talk about the fact that this has to be weighed in or looked at as well. This person's saying, okay, I'm going to take my retirement money, $64,000, and live on it while the business gets started up. Okay. Entrepreneurs often forget about that or find themselves eating money out of the initial investments, like the fixed costs. So at this point, this person is $89,000 in the hole already before they've ever sold a package of jam, a case of jam. Why? They've absorbed $25,700 of fixed costs, i.e. sunk costs, and then they've also put in made a commitment of $64,000 to live on their savings. Now, a lot of people that want to go into business for themselves, and let me offer this advice from somebody who lived with two of them. My parents were both entrepreneurs, and they were wonderful people who shielded us from the ups and downs of that kind of life. Okay, and it takes a lot of courage to start a business, a lot. What will often happen is people will take the money they've accumulated. Often they'll find relatives, friends, people who will invest in that company. And if things don't go well, people get ugly really fast. And you could be sitting across, the dinner table every holiday, looking at, Aunt Sally, who gave you $30,000 and never saw a dime on her dime return. So this is not for the faint of heart. Okay, anybody can start a business. It takes a really good business person to sustain it and build it. It takes an incredibly well-disciplined and intelligent business person to take that thing and grow it to a point where you can hire people to come in and manage it, or you can take it public. But they're all based on one notion, and that is you start a business because you see a need that people have. You don't start a business so you can work for yourself or set your own hours or any of that kind of craziness. People who do that, or just start a business with the hopes of, well, I'll take it and I'll sell it and I'll make $1 billion. Most of the time, people who do that fail and fail miserably. A business exists within a society. It's got to have something that it offers people in terms of what we call a product service bundle. And it has to be something good entrepreneurs have, that something inside themselves. Where I think they get astray is when they get out of that and just figure, I have the golden touch, so any business I take, I can make it a highly profitable business. That's not true. Give you a couple of statistics. 90% of all businesses failed in the first 5 years. Within the first 5 years, 80% of all mergers and acquisitions fail. A business is a unique critter with its own kind of way it interacts with the market, and it takes somebody who understands that to take it and be successful. Or if it's a really, really large company, like an IBM, it takes someone who's at the top who's smart enough to say, I really don't know what we need to do, but I'm going to find people who can help us sustain this thing. IBM, year after year, kind of hangs it. It's there. It's been, oh goodness, I think it's well over 100 years old now. And of the Fortune 100 firms, 3/4 of them turn over every 5 years. Every 20 years. If you were to go and look at the Fortune 100 20 years from now, it'd be a completely different set of companies. Okay? So people who are entrepreneurs are very courageous people. But they also have something deep inside them, and that's a desire to help people, a desire to make people's lives better. These folks want to sell jam, and as trivial as it sounds, if they sell you some jam and you eat it and you enjoy it, they've enriched your life. I'll never forget it. This is back in the early 80s. I was at a school where we had more students from Poland than any other place outside of Poland. And so we'd have people come over from that Polish government. This is just a few years before the wall fell. And they would just be absolutely flabbergasted at all of the different kinds of products. I'd take them into a store and they go, you have 25 kinds of toothpaste and you've got 16 kinds of bread and you have all these soft drinks and the shelves are full. How did that happen? And I tell them it's because there's someone out there who said, I think someone would like a hamburger cooked like this or whatever. Okay, I can tell you my own experience with my parents. I started working for my parents when I was 9 years old. Okay, and so in those days, you're part of the family, you worked. And I remember one day, maybe I was 10 or 11 years old, my dad and I were up in Tulsa. He was opening a store, and it was about 100 degrees inside. He'd build all the shelves, do all the work. And I said, why are we doing this? And he looked at me and his answer was very simple. People must eat. Not bad. They do. My mom sold Avon. Long before there was a Mary Kay, there was a product called Avon. She was an entrepreneur. She sold it, had people selling it for her eventually in all this business. And it's somewhere in the dense brain of mine when I was an adolescent, the good Lord had implied me to ask her this question: why do you do this? And her answer was this very simple one. She said, you know, when people feel like they look nice, they feel better about themselves. That was her mission statement. I thought, oh, so I learned that from those two people. That's why you go into business. Well, obviously, these people think they got something nice to share with the world, and so they're going to try to, this Lindstrom. So they're taking $64,000 of their own money, plus another $25,700. So we're already 90 grand in the hole before we ever start. Now, let's take a look at what they're going to ask us to do. And they give us some more information there about break-even units, okay? And that's fixed costs over a contribution margin. They give us break-even revenue, and that's break-even units times the revenue per unit. And then they give us some tasks to do. So we're going to put together a pro forma, okay? Then we're going to try to visually depict it to show that break even. So let's look at this for a minute. Now, I'm going to come down here and let's see, and I've got 0 sales. So if I didn't sell any units, I'm going to go ahead and compute that, and it's going to equal 0 times, and I want to see if I can find the sell price. Boom. Okay. Now I want to find the break-even point. All right. We've done one that's easy. And if you take a look there in the text, they're going to tell you the break-even units is the fixed cost over the contribution margin. So the break-even units is going to equal fixed costs. Now let's just use it in the. Let's go ahead and use it use the name manager. Did I do fixed costs? I guess I need to do that. I'm going to escape that for just a minute, and we're going to define a name, fixed cost. I didn't do that, I don't believe. And then I'm going to find that. And there we be. Oh, huh? You could if you want to go ahead and do that, you can. I didn't do that. Now, when you make these names in the name manager, make sure that they're connected, either with if you have 2 words with the lower level just throw them together. That's what I do. Fixed costs. Okay, and that's B16. Okay, now I'm ready. And that's going to equal, the break even is going to equal the fixed cost divided by the contribution margin. Okay, and let's take that down to a whole number. So click home, and you have that 1147. Let's just decrease the decimals. Okay, and then let's go ahead and center that 1147, and we'll do the same thing with the 0 sales. We're going to center that, make it look pretty. Now, half of break even, okay, and it's going to equal 0.50, right? And then we'll go ahead and we'll get those formatted like we want them. In fact, I'm just going to click on copy, format painter, boom. So here's the first half of this, the left-hand side of this. 0 sales, okay. If we don't sell any, we have a 0 in terms of units sold. Then the break-even unit, break-even is 1,147 units. So to break even, we've got to sell 1,147 units, and then half that's 574 units. Okay, Let's stop and think about that for a minute. 1,174 divided by 52 weeks a year is you're selling, you know, about 20 cases of the stuff each year. 20 some odd. Okay? That's cases of the stuff. So let's hope that the $5,000 in advertising you spent is going to get you going on that one. Then we have break even, okay? And then 1.5 break even. And notice I did 0, then a half, then break even. And now we're going to do another increment, which would be 1.5 times. This will equal, okay? And that'll be times 1.5. And then I'll do the click the format painter, pardon me. Go back here, I'll click the copy, the format painter, boom. And the 1/2 break even is 1721, and then twice break even will equal So we've kind of worked ourselves through a process here where we've said, okay, the copy, paint, and we'll paint that format. If we don't sell any units, 0. If we sell half the break-even units, 574. If we sell break-even point, okay, what we need to break even, we're to sell 1,147. If we're, say, 50% better, 1,700. And then twice is 2,296. Now you could say, well, why couldn't I do 1.25 or 1.1? That would be up to you, okay? We just simplified this by doing halves. With me so far? Okay, so that's the unit. Now we need to know, okay, how much revenue, okay, am I gonna sell? Well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put equal and the 0 times, and I think we have a revenue per unit. And we'll just click up here, the sell price, excuse me. And there we are. Obviously, I'm going to get 0. Now here I'm going to take equals sale price. And if I want to, let's see if I can drag and drop that on the wall across there by keeping the, I'm in the row, so I'm going to put C, $, and we'll see if that'll let us just scroll on around. Oh, wait a minute here. I don't want to help. Stop that. Okay, okay, don't argue with me. All right, I want to put a, yep. And I'm going to put a $sign in front of the 28. Let's see if that'll let us go ahead and then do. Okay. I'm going to take that times the sales price. Okay. And I'm going to see if I can just go ahead and scroll that on across, since I identified the row is where I want to stay constant. D. Pretty good. Okay. And I'm going to click up here. So what I'm going to do with the revenue, I'm going to go ahead and on that revenue row, I'm going to go ahead and make them out to be dollars. Let's put them just like currency. And then and then we'll put them in the middle. I'm just doing a little bit of embellishment here. I'm going to put that 0 in the middle too. So far we see we're going to have to sell 1,147 units. That'll generate roughly $45,836. Now fixed cost is going to be easy. Cool. And we'll click on that. Okay. And then we'll just carry it on across. With me so far? Okay. So let's go ahead and make those not look nice, and we'll go ahead and put them in the middle. I'll format them while we're going along. And then I want the variable cost. Okay. Now, the variable cost down here of $17.55 is the variable cost per unit. So this is going to equal variable cost times units sold. And since I want to drag it across, I'm going to go ahead and put that $sign on the 28. Okay, and I'll just carry it on across here. All right, and then I'll touch that. I'll go copy, format painter. Okay. Well, let's see, I'm going to do that. I want to make these. I'm sorry? What did you say the equation for variable cost is going to be variable cost, okay, times the units. And I put a $sign in front of the 28 so it tells the machine I'm coming across. Now I'm going to get these formatted up to currency. Okay. And then I'm going to get them, and there we are. I'll get that centered as well. Okay, now we come to the moment of truth because we're going to look at total cost, okay? And that's going to equal the fixed cost, okay, plus the variable cost, okay? Boom. Pardon me, it's going to be pardon me. Let me go back here for a minute. I apologize. The total, yeah, of course I had it right. Yeah, equals the fixed cost, plus the variable cost per level of units. And they'll take this on across here. We'll see if it plays nice for us. No, it's, yeah, it is. C2, D2. Very good. Now I can go ahead and I'll just go ahead and do a copy paste. Well, let's see here. Those are currency. I'm going to make them currency. Row C, they're from B36 over to F36. Let's go ahead and make it currency. This is just bells and whistles kinds of stuff. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and get rid of the cents. So we'll decrease the decimals. And they'll put them in the middle. Okay, now we're going to come down to the profit or loss. All right, and we've computed the total cost, which is a fixed cost plus a variable cost. Okay, and we've done that at each level: 0 units sold, half of break even, which is 574 units, and break even, which is 1147, and I want to put that in the middle there. Okay, now I realize the actual break even then should at 1/2 should be 573.5, but we're not producing half a case, so we're just going to count it, and we'll have a little rounding error, but we're okay there. 1/2 of break even, I'm going to put that in the middle too. Twice break even, I'll make sure it's in the middle. And I'm just doing a little bit of work here. Okay, and 0 sales, make sure that's in the middle. 1/2 break even, so we're in good shape here. So it looks nice. We got everything really nice. Now we're ready to look at the profit and the loss. Okay, and the profit and the loss is pretty simple. It's the revenue minus the total cost. So it's going to equal revenue minus total cost and we're going to come all the way across with this. All right, And then I'm going to center all of those. And here we are. Now, how do I know I'm right? Well, I've got my break even. So I'll stop for just a second because I've been going pretty fast. Now, remember, you got the screen recording to look at if you get a little bit behind, so don't get panicked about that. And the other thing is, I think I have one or two keys out here for you to take a look at and upload, but you can certainly look at it and see the formulas and see what I did with them. Okay, I haven't done much in the way of formatting or anything. Okay, I could, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go over here to a cell A27, and I'm going to come all the way down, pardon me, on A27, all the way over to F27. Now I'm going to put in a nice blue fill. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here to A40. And I'm going to come all the way across A40 over to F40, and I'm going to put in that same fill so that I have a nice little border. And then inside here, okay, I'm going to make all borders. Okay, so it just makes it a little bit easier to read. Follow me? Okay, so basically at this point now, we've figured out where we are. Now, if we want, we can add in one other piece of data here that'll help us make it this really really put this in perspective. And come down to cell A42, and we're going to put in economic profit. Okay, and that's going to be the profit or the loss plus the economic cost, pardon me, minus that. Okay, now to make these, if I have any negative numbers, well, that's okay. And then we'll just carry this across. Now I want you to notice that this person's, even if they sell twice as much as they think they will, okay, they're going to be about 20 grand in the hole. Pardon me, 38 grand in the hole. And I got that economic profit, and by taking the profit or loss minus the economic cost. And then I'll go ahead and put them into the middle. Now I'm going to come over here on the units sold, the revenue and all that stuff, make that bold, make it look pretty, and so we pick it up a little easier. Same with economic profit. Okay. So let's go back through how I constructed this, and then we'll do one final thing. I get the sale price. I added up the total fixed costs by summing the rent, advertising, commercial stove, the cooking equipment. And then I took the variable costs. This is per unit, prep and packaging, shipping, and there's the total. Then I had the contribution margin, which is the sales price per unit less the variable cost per unit. In other words, $39.95 minus $17.55 equals $22.40. Okay. Then I put in an economic cost of $64,000. That's what the entrepreneur is taking out of savings to live on while they get the business started. So they're really rolling the dice here. Okay, that's the assumptions area that we put together. Okay, now we had to compute the break-even amount, which is in the middle, and we know that the break-even is fixed costs, okay, divided by the contribution margin. Okay. And we did that. We got that. Once we did that, that was easy to find 1.5 of that and 2.0 of that, or 1/2 or 0. Everybody with me? So we've done the pro forma, and we've looked at this and we said, okay, I have a lot of information here. I have information about what I've got to pay towards fixed costs per unit of sale. I know how many units I've got to sell to break even, okay? And then more tellingly, I know, given my investment, okay, where things set at different levels of break even. Even if I sell twice as much as I think I'm going to sell, okay? Even if I think that I'm gonna be 38,300 in the hole. Okay. So now I'm going to do one thing here, and I'm going to click on cell. It's going to be cell B39, and I'm going to highlight all the way over to F39. And as you guessed it, I'm going to use conditional formatting. Now I use the scales or the green, and then I'll bold those up so they're easy to see. And I can go ahead on this economic profit here. I'll go ahead and let's see, I'm going to put that in a salmon, and then bold everything. Okay, so far so good. Okay, now we want to go ahead, and right now we have a very decent presentation of these data. We've used conditional formatting to show them. It's easy to see where break even is. Okay, we can see the economic profit issue that's involved. It's formatted nicely, so it communicates pretty well. Okay, and it's, again, notice I've got, if I want, I could do that 1.1 break even, but I took halves, and I took 0 sales, then half of break even, 1.5 times twice. Okay. So now I've got a pro forma. I could play with this, and since I've got sale price set at $39.95, I could do this. Let's try it at $45 even and see what it all looks like. Okay. See if it does us any good. And we'll just go ahead and walk that back. I'll put it in at $39.95. Okay. Now, obviously, when I change this to 45, the contribution margin increased. So I'm going to try this again. I'm going to put $46 in there and see what happens. And notice something as you look here. I put in $46 as the sale price. All right. Now notice something. And then I kept the variable costs constant, $17.55. Look at break even now. I only have to sell 900 units. That's a different proposition than having to sell 1,147. But will I sell that many? I don't know. All right. I may have to do a pricing study. I will have to probably go out and take a look at what others have done, okay, in terms of what their pricing is. Pricing, and you've heard me say it probably before. You're going to hear me say it several times throughout your time here. It is a tragedy we don't give you a pricing course, because most companies do pricing on the basis of internal budgets, not on prices as a signal to the market. Okay? You say, what do you mean, Dr. Harmon? Okay, well, if you look at the car sales right now, they're in a frenzy to sell vehicles. They always are. Okay? But when a new model's coming in, like a 2019, the 2018 suddenly lose their luster. And you can get these deals, or we'll give you 5,000 or 0% finance, or what, and we'll add this in and do this and do that. They're sending a signal. Okay. Now, if you go look at luxury cars, and probably the place to do that's up at Edmond, up off just south of, I think, go up on 77, and you'll see the luxury vehicles out there. You won't see that. You won't see that stuff. You'll see a MSRP on the side. They'll tell you this is what it costs. They're sending you a signal, and that is, if you're really that hunked up about the cost, you probably shouldn't be buying this. Or they let you build your own on a website or whatever. Pricing is signals. So we're going to stay with the $39.95, okay? But now we're going to try to do a chart. And one thing I didn't mention is at the end of each case, and now case number 6, really you've got these, it starts at the bottom, page 58, and then goes through 59, 5 tasks that they want you to do, okay? Okay. Now, pardon me, there are 4 tasks there, then they had an additional problem. That's not that big of a deal. Then over on page 60, this is in the Solve It text, they start to show you how to do line charts and use them. So we're going to try a line chart in here, okay, to see if we can depict these data visually. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click Insert. Okay, and I'm going to find a line chart, and I think I want this one, align with markers. Okay, now the chart's going to ask me to select my data. You see that up there? And I'm going to start with the fixed costs. And when I select the data source, I get the data source legend, and it says the data chart range. Now you can do it, I like to do it old school and just add one legend feature at a time. So I'm going to click Add, and it'll say, what's the series name? I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to click Fixed Cost. So I'm going to click cell A32. And then for the values for that, I'm going to come across and voila. Okay, I've got the fixed cost. Now, the second thing I want to deal with is the total cost. I'll click OK. So I'm going to go back here to the data source dialog box, and I'm going to click Add Series Name. And I want total cost. So I'll click on A36, and it'll say, okay, what values do you want? And I'll just come over here, and I'll start at B36 and come across. Okay. Now, I want to add a third one, which is going to be revenue. So I'm going to click Add. The series name would be revenue. Okay. And the series values will be those for revenue. Okay. Now, I want to come down here and I want to edit the horizontal category, the axis labels. Okay. Click on Edit and say Axis Label Range. And I'm going to start over here at B28. I'm going to scroll across over to F28, and that will give me my units sold. Now, I want to finish up here with this, so I'm going to click inside, and let's see, I want to find design format, or do I want design on this? If you click on the design, now let me stop for a minute. You have the break even, you have the fixed costs, okay? And we looked at revenue, fixed costs, total costs, okay? And I even keep notes for myself to get the legends in the right series, right order. And then I have, these are the units sold. I want to come in and put a little bit of, identify the table a little bit. So I'm going to click over here on the far left, okay? It will say, it says quick, I don't want the quick layout. I want the add chart element. Yeah, far left, add chart element. And I'm going to get a chart title, okay? And I want that above the chart. There it is. And I'll type that in, break it. BE analysis. Badger jams. Okay. Now I misspelled jam, so I'll come back here. Didn't need the M. Now I want to come down here, and I want to add a chart element, and I want to add an axis title. Okay. And let's see, primary horizontal. And I'm going to put units sold. Okay. The nice thing about this is once I've got this jewel put together, it just becomes a matter of putting in some new data, or really just changing the assumptions. The assumptions will drive. Now, if I want to, I can also I'll add one more chart element, and that would be an axis title. And I want a primary vertical title, okay? And I'm going to put that costs, revenues. And it escapes me now on exactly. And I'll go ahead and home, and I'll bold that. How to get that turned around where it's given vertical, but that's okay. Now, this is not too bad. I think I'll click in here, and let's go ahead and make that a 12 font, maybe a 14. Yeah, we can make that a 14. I'll make this a 14 down here. And then the BE analysis for Badger jams, I'm going to make that a 16 point and bold. Okay. Now, we did the chart, the pro forma, the table. Let me go back through the chart, okay? The first thing I did was I clicked insert, okay, and charts. And I went over and I found the line chart with markers, okay? Once I did that, then I'm able to select the data. Now, if you want, you can click inside the chart and click select data. And I started with the Legends series. Legends series also would be the Y axis. So I started with the Legends series, and I did fixed costs, the total cost, and then revenue. And I did them in that order so that I'd see that break-even point. Okay? and then it gave me the default red, green, and blue that it does. And then I went over to the horizontal axis and I edited it. And what I did was I used those numbers up there in units sold as my axis labels. Okay? So far, so good. And then I just simply, I added the title. Okay? I added the chart element. I added a vertical axis title and a horizontal axis title. And now I can see how this looks. And I have a break-even area. Now, this area here up above, okay, means I'm above break-even. Okay, I'm making some money. Below here means I'm losing money. This shows me the break-even part right there. Now, the nice thing about this is if I want, because I have this assumptions area, I can come in here and change these assumptions. And I might change the sell price and see how things look at that point. I might come in and change the preparation and packaging. Maybe I could get it cheaper. Maybe I could get the shipping done cheaper. Okay? I could use a scenario manager if I want to do that. Well, yeah, it's going to change some of those to just static numbers. I don't know if we want to do that. But, yeah, if you're in a meeting, you do this on the fly. And so, well, what does 45 look like? How many we have to sell if we sell them for 48? And the whole thing, okay, everything, there are two big numbers here. And I'm going to put them, I click home, and I'm going to put them in red. Okay? And that's going to be, pardon me. Back, yeah. Yeah, let's go back home. I don't want to do that. Let's set that back. But the two figures that are really important for me are these. The economic cost, that is what I invested, and the sales price. This other stuff is somewhat controllable. My variable costs, my fixed costs are controllable. I might be able to find, maybe I could spend a little bit less on the stove. Same with the cooking equipment. Maybe I could get a little bit lower rent. Maybe I could spend a little bit less on advertising. Who knows? The whole idea is this. This is the starting place for you to start having conversations with yourself or whoever else is an investor in this enterprise to say, here's how things look given some of these assumptions and what we have to sell. Now, break even at 1147, okay? You got to sell 22 of those a week. You saw it's simple. I'll go to Walmart and I'll ask them to sell it for me. It'll probably take you 6 months to get to see even a low-level product placement manager. Then probably another 3 or 4 months to fight your way up to somebody who can semi-make a decision. And then finally probably have to go before some kind of committee, and they'll decide because they have no idea who you are. They've never heard of you. They don't know who you are, and they don't want to put something on their shelves that's not either something they make or that they know is made well, national name, brand, or theirs. Why would they? They'd be insane, because if you put something, you accidentally drop a little glass in your jam, guess what? Walmart's getting sued, and they're all over the internet. Or the jam's horrible and people start bringing it back, they'll be calling you to say, come pick your junk up. Then there's the battle over product placement. If you want to see something, this is something interesting for you to do. Next time you go to Walmart, especially go into the beer section, do not partake. okay, even if you're of age, and take a look and see how the beer's arranged. Who has the greatest amount of shelf space? Who? Bud Light. Why is it? Why would they? That's most common. They sell a ton of it. When I was your age, you know what the #1 selling beer was all over the state of Oklahoma? It was Coors. Budweiser had tiny little space. I thought, but this is the king of beers. This is Anheuser-Busch. And there's these people with whatever they're smoking up in the Rockies, and they say it's all in their water and they got to keep it frozen. Who knows? To me, I never liked this stuff. And I go, okay, Michelob, now that's good stuff. But Bud Light, I can say that from experience a long time ago. Okay, I don't touch this stuff anymore. I know the Apostle Paul says anything is permissible, but not all things are wise. And I'm the kind of person, let's say I decide to go to the store and I buy 4, 5, 6 packs. It's the middle of summer. I'll tell you who will be right behind me as I'm beeping out. My preacher or people in my Sunday school class. That's the way it's worked for me all my life. If 10 of us did something bad, I was the one who got caught. I learned that lesson early, so I just said, okay, forget it. Enough of that. Shelf space. Okay, so when you're in Walmart next time, just walk any of the aisles up there. Walk where they keep all the breads and all that, and look to see who's got the most space. Okay, that's based on sales. So, you know, you might say, all right, I'm going to have some program to get these things sold. How would I do it? Maybe you'll put yourself out on the internet. I don't know. But you got 1,100 of these to sell. And the saddest thing is if you spend all the money and you make the first shipment and you send it off, or you go into your local stores and you'll probably wind up selling this stuff in Dollar General stores or something like there at first. Then you'll try to find upscale. Okay, you'll like to trade up. Okay. That was my deal. I started when I was dating. I dated the homeliest girl in school. Okay, she wasn't that bad, although I felt like that the leather strap kept her buck teeth intact. That was okay. But I wasn't. But that shows I'm not a superficial person. I didn't care. She was the best I was going to get. That's how it worked. Okay, and the scoundrel that I was, she probably was better because I knew that she probably wouldn't knife me in the back because I was a scoundrel. How many of you ever heard of Dog Bounty Hunter? You never? What? You don't know who Dog Bounty Hunter is? How many of you know who he is? Okay. Now, listen, I have an obsession with him. Why? Because my parents, by the time I was 6, my parents had moved about 5 times. And I found him every time. So I have a skill. Okay. Okay, now you understand. Did y'all go to did you guys have a chapel today, or is it? Okay, and then you have one Wednesday and then Friday. Okay. How was the chapel today? Was it good? It was good. Very good. Very good. Okay. Now, that being said, I can go ahead and change. And I have this assumptions area, and that's where I can plug the values and change those assumption figures if I need to, and see what things will look like if I change the sales price or I change the fixed cost or the variable cost. The whole idea here is not to come up with the answer. The whole idea is to have a tool, okay, that I can use to start to have a conversation. Got it? I do not. Yes, close it. Thank you. It lets me have a conversation with myself, with others, to say, here's how it looks if these assumptions hold true. All right. Now the contribution margin, that cell, let's E8. Let's go ahead and make that bold too, so everything looks nice and uniform. Isn't that pretty though? I have 2 different ways I visualize the data. I use the conditional formatting, or I provided you a break-even chart. I'm going to tell you a quick story to show you that this does have some real practical relevance. Okay. and it stopped me at 3:15 because that's when my Tourette's kicks in. So I need to kind of stop. I don't have Tourette's. It's just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Don't go here. Look, don't write, Dear President Dr. Whitlock. There's a madman in the business school. He's filled trash cans full of those letters, so he's not paying attention. So you might as well stop. Okay. Now, quick story about all of this. Well, a long time ago, I worked for a school that had what we call a small business center, development center that we worked through the United States, the Small Business Administration. And we worked with companies, people that were entrepreneurs that wanted to start their own business. And we had a gentleman who came in and they would assign faculty to cases with them, and we'd use our expertise to work with that person, try to help them get rolling. And he came in and he wanted to start a car wash business, which I thought, not bad. Very little labor. This is before the days of when, they would have people come out. He just was a drive-through. Okay. I thought, not bad. Vending machines, sell some soap, sell some wax, and the person, and every time they use up 25 cents worth, it goes off. Okay. And, so someone comes with a monster truck full of mud, and in that part of where that school is at, there were a lot of those. They spend a lot of money. I thought, well, this will work. He decided to become the king of the car washes. And rather than one unit, he said he wanted 3. Now, this is a town of 30,000 people. And I don't know how many cars how many cars they had. But as he gave us his budget, and of course that equipment's expensive, it came to the point that for him to break even, everyone in that town would have to wash their car with him at least 3 times a month. And I said, with all due respect, I think you need to scale this back because I don't need to do anything. And I said, okay, what do I know? I'm just a college professor. So I saw him about 2 months later, and he's beaming, and I noticed the 3 car washes. He said, I have a cousin that works at the bank. They gave me a loan. Good for you. I saw him about a year later. The school would go out and they'd host people into the school for, on the pretext that we really were interested in, but we were really after if they had any money, okay? And we were trying to get some money out of them so we could get money for scholarships for people like you, okay? So we said, poor as us, give us money. And he came to the function, and he said, I owe you an apology. And I said, why do you owe me an apology? He said, because you told me it wasn't going to work. And I said, well, I noticed that you've shuttered 2 of them. And he said, I'm about to shutter the 3rd one. I said, I'm very sorry. He said, I've lost everything I had. And my cousin's mad at me. The bank is threatening me. I may lose my house. My wife has left me, all because of this stupid car wash business I got into. And you've been with me long. No, I'm kind of a smart aleck. So my tongue was just ready to go at it. But the good Lord stopped and intervened. And I was nice and gracious for a change. I said, I'm very sorry. I'm very, very sorry that happened. He said, I wish I had listened to you. I wish I had understood or really listened to what you were trying to tell me. And I would have been much better off. And he would have, because not everybody in that town was going to wash their car with him 3 times a week. If he went 3 times a month every year, wasn't going to happen. Okay. I don't care if he'd been giving out, nice smelling stuff, the little thing you hang, here's how I knew I had left that part of the world, which is a fairly rural part of the world. The big, the tree things that keep the scent down because they smoke too much cigarettes and maybe they got sick and threw up and all that in their car. They get smaller as you go into urban areas. Okay. But down there they had some giant ones. I mean, they look like redwood trees. I think, whoa, I could tell who the students on campus who had been partying a lot because I'd see those big pine saw things. I said, oh, I understand. You've wrecked your parents' car and you don't want them to smell that you've been, doing things you shouldn't do. But it's really sad as I listened to him. And I felt very, very badly for him because he had forgotten that this stuff it's real. We didn't just invent it. It's real stuff. So if you think about going into a business, understand that it's a big risk. Understand that you need to go into it for the right reasons. And even if you go in for the right reasons, it may not work out. I've told a lot of folks over the years, you may want to look at franchising, okay? Because franchising, often if it's a national franchise, you're going to have a fighting chance because people know the product, they know the name and all that. But the franchisor will put you through a lot. Now, if you think people that own or run a McDonald's are just stupid people, let me tell you what much you've got to have in the bank before they even talk to you. You got about $5 million in the bank, and you go to their university for at least 18 months where they teach you how they operate, because they don't want you out there giving them a bad name. So there are some opportunities there. But for every business that fails, there's that one that starts up. And all I could say is, if you decide to go that route, or if you know people are entrepreneurs, give them enormous respect, because it takes a lot of courage to step out like that instead of drawing a paycheck from somebody. I can tell you that for sure. And this helps us understand what we have to do and a way to start analyzing this problem of, will my business work or not? And if you really wanted to look at, if you're a marketing major, if I've got any of you in here, think about this for a minute. You've got $5,550 and you're going to hopefully generate $25,000 of profit. You'll sell twice as much as you thought. So you're getting about $5 bang for every buck. Is that good? Is it bad? I wouldn't know. If you're a marketing major, you ought to know that type of stuff. If you have an advertising class, which I assume you do, really have your eyes and ears open. Well, I have 9 minutes before the Tourette's kicks in, and so I'm going to pronounce a benediction on all of you. And go forth, be nice, and get out of my lab. I'm teasing you. It's your lab. Yours all the time. Sometimes I come in here, if it's empty, I get a big tear in my eye. I feel very lonely.
Get out of my lab.
Get out of my lab. See you later, guys. I have a question.